Whenever I think of tolls, I think of the people who say, we already paid for that freeway. Why are you turning it into a tollway? You're basically stealing it. When I see these things, I refer to the moral hazard that politicians have. And to me, there are two major moral hazards, and the first one I call moral hazard 1, and that is the state and the feds. Whenever politicians have a chance to spend money on pet projects, they take the chance. And it doesn't seem to matter where the revenue stream originates. So with gas taxes in the state of California, we've all seen it, they divert the gas taxes to some other purpose, whether it's a fast train or some kind of a social program or any other pet project. We can't seem to get the sum total of the gas taxes to go into transportation funding, whether it's infrastructure maintenance or repairs or new construction. Also, the state of California has a tremendous tendency to favor Northern California in its transportation funding. And it's like a reverse Robin Hood scenario, because at least in the Inland Empire, we have lower median incomes than the people in Northern California. So they're basically taxing us on our gas and our mileage and whatever they come up with in the future. And they're giving the money away to richer people in Northern California, which I consider to be a moral problem. Then there's the issue of these self-help counties, and we have become one. And that is the concept where if the state's not going to provide our transportation, we'll just tax ourselves and provide it locally. And it's a pull yourself up by your bootstraps strategy, which sounds good, but the problem is it creates a double tax. So we've already paid our gasoline taxes, and now we have to pay local tolls and fund massive bond floats and the interest that comes with it after we've already paid our share of state tax. And it's not like the state doesn't have enough tax revenue. We're the highest tax state in the union by a fairly large margin. They have plenty of money, but their priorities are elsewhere. So by being a self-help county, essentially what we're doing is we're saying, the state would provide transportation funding if the traffic jams got a little bit worse or some degree worse. But because we keep rescuing ourselves, they are perfectly comfortable saying, oh, we don't need to provide any funding for your transportation, you'll do it yourself. So there's a moral hazard here in creating a carelessness on the part of the state legislature. And they are fully willing to be careless, and we know that, we've seen it. Then we get to moral hazard number 2. That's the locals. Whether it's private industry or government, whoever owns these tolling facilities, there's a profit motive in there. Whenever you have traffic jams, you have revenue. When you don't have traffic jams, you don't have revenue. So there's this built-in incentive to encourage traffic jams. So that's a big hazard. And there are ways to overcome that, and I've come up with I think it's an innovative solution to it. These different moral hazards that come up with whenever the government gets involved in being at odds with its people. The first one, the state moral hazard, I think what they can do is they can come along and say, we repent and we agree with you that you've paid your gas taxes and we really need to pay for it. So if we borrow $1.5 billion to put in a tolling facility, and I agree, you can't just, build these things with no money. They can just come along and say, we'll pay off those debts. And then that frees up even more money from a tolling facility for use for local projects. That's fine, but then you get into moral hazard 2. The locals want to spend all that money on their pet projects, and they salivate over it, and they do things inadvertently, maybe just subconsciously, but they do things that don't improve the traffic flow so that they can get jams and they can get revenue. So I said, let's look at this situation and try to come up with something innovative that would solve this second moral hazard, that of the locals salivating over the revenue from these toll lanes. And I agree, having seen the information, a volume-constrained, optimized, maximized toll lane will have more throughput than a sluggish, crowded, jammed lane. That's true. If you keep the traffic to about 1,000 cars an hour, you can get a lot more throughput than a slow lane, which may be only letting through a quarter that many because they're going so slow. So I agree that there's a lot of advantage to having congestion pricing. It helps control the flow. And there's some people who say, even if you have enough money to build the freeways, you should still toll, because that gives more throughput than if you don't. So then the question becomes, what do you do with the excess revenue? I propose something that I call péage mutual. Péage means tolling in French, and mutual means mutual, so mutual tolling. And that would be that the ones who want to go fast pay the ones who want to go slow for the privilege, rather than paying it to the government, rather than paying it to these salivating, rabid politicians. So basically what it would say is that everybody would have a transponder. The transponder readers would cross all the lanes instead of just the toll lanes. It would encourage everybody to get a transponder. It would be a good marketing tool for the project. And then people who are paying $10 to go faster would result in the people going slow getting maybe 50 cents, whatever, based on the ratios. And you would take out the financing expense from the revenue, you'd take out the operating expense, and some nominal amount for ancillary projects that are affected by the toll lane itself. And then the excess revenue would be redistributed to the people. And it would take away this incentive to increase traffic jams. Now you could do this thing very simply, and you could just say, give credit toward the toll lanes, and then maybe the people in the slow lanes could use that credit to pay for a fast trip later on. Maybe they could cash it out, maybe not. Maybe it's just for credit.